Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. You know, one question I ask every guest on Everyday Martial Artist is about their favorite martial arts book. And there's never been one quite like Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, described as the art of war for the martial arts. Martial Theory helps any martial artist or instructor take their understanding and teaching to the next level. And at martialtheoryU.com, you'll find a global community with instructor groups, Q&A with Steve, live events, and demonstrations to help you apply martial theory directly to your training. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Find Martial Theory on Amazon, and when you join martialtheoryU.com, use discount code EverydayMA for 20% off. That's under $20 a month for life. That's martialtheoryU.com, code EverydayMA. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today is a lifelong martial artist whose journey began more than 6 decades ago and ultimately led him to develop one of the most recognizable branches of American Kenpo in the Midwest. He first stepped onto the mats in the mid-60s, beginning his training in Goju-Shorei Karate, before later studying under the legendary Grandmaster John McSweeney, one of Ed Parker's original black belts and a key figure in bringing Kenpo to the Midwest. Under McSweeney's guidance, he earned his black belt and deepened his understanding of principle-based practice self-defense. In 1984, he founded Saviano's White Tiger Kenpo Karate in Addison, Illinois, a system that blends the directness of Japanese and Okinawan karate with the fluidity of the Chinese martial arts. Over the past 4 decades, he has shaped the White Tiger Kenpo curriculum, promoted generations of black belts, and developed a cohesive system known for its efficiency, circular motion, and real-world effectiveness. He has been inducted into the multiple martial arts Hall of Fames, led countless seminars, and cultivated a community built on discipline, respect, and personal growth. What began in a small training space has grown into a legacy that continues to influence martial artists across the Midwest and beyond. Beyond martial arts, he's also worked in radio and television like me, and also worked in a California winery. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Tom Saviano. How you doing, Tom?
I'm fine, Brian. A pleasure to speak with you. I've been looking forward to talking to you, my friend. So what can we talk about? What can I do, Brian?
Yeah, like I said, we've been chatting about it for a while. I think we first chatted back in May, and finally time to set this up and make it official. So as I mentioned in the intro, you've been doing this for a long time, but what I want to know is what led to it. I want to know where that first interest in martial arts came from, that first spark that kicked off your martial arts journey.
Well, I'd be happy to tell you. It was in March of 1964, so a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy selling hot dogs for 25 cents at a stand, and I was working late, and I pulled over to go spend the quarter, and I saw this sign on this building, and it said judo. And I said, I've heard of that stuff. I looked in the window, and these guys with these little white pajamas that went down just to their calf and the mid-arm, they're throwing each other around, and that was nice, but I was curious. So a couple of days later, I went by, and they were punching and kicking, and I grew up in Little Italy, so I certainly could understand what punching was all about.
Yeah.
So I walked in, started talking to them, and it was called karate. And I said, karate. They said, karate. I said, what is that? And they told me. And my wife and I only had 2 little children, which are now grandparents. So I talked to the man, had to sign up for a year. You're going to love this. It was $100 down and $20 a month for 11 months. Now, our rent for our apartment was $95 a month. So that was a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I said, no, we've been together since we're 14 years old. So we've been around, we know each other. I said, you know what, hon? I said, I'll try it for a while. Well, the while has gone on from 1964 to 1985 and still going. Recently, the last seminar I did was for about 30 black belts from around the country in Louisville. And very exciting, just getting all the guys together and talking about different systems. And people say to me, what's the best self-defense? You know, is it karate? Is it this? Is that? I said, you know what? Be nice to people. Walk away if you can. I said, the best self-defense, unfortunately, has a trigger on it. So just be nice to people.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And that's how you are and I am. And those of us who've been in the business. And I learned something. Those who talk about how good they are really aren't very good. I remember John McSweeney, my instructor, God rest him, said that talkers are not doers. And he said, he did it in poor grammar on purpose. He said, them what talk don't know, them that know don't talk. So it's the truth. Let your whatever you do, your accomplishments speak for you.
Nice.
So does that help you?
Yeah. So that first school you went and visited and ultimately joined, how long did you stay at that school?
Well, I was in broadcasting at the time also. I was in a radio station and I was offered a job on TV, which I didn't take because I had relocation. But I was on the way to or from or whatever, and I stopped only because I was driving down the street. And when I saw it, it was Goju-Shorei, and I trained whenever I could because I was on the air until 5 in the afternoon, and I was pretty far from the dojo. And class started at 6:30, so I was training whenever I could, anywhere from one night a week to 4 nights a week. Saturdays were out because I was busy. And I did that for a couple of years before we had an incident that closed our school.
Okay.
And which I still can't get over. But
yeah,
I would train like you did. Whatever you could, you tried.
That's right. So what was it about it? That first class, you went to it and you obviously enjoyed it and decided to keep going for a couple years. What was it about it? What drew you in? What made you want to keep going back?
That's a great question. I'll tell you why, Brian, because I thought of that myself. What made me stay with it? And I'm going to prove a point to you. Everything was done in Japanese, right? When you walked in, you bowed on the floor. Everything was done. And I grew up in Little Italy, so I was used to hearing two languages. That wasn't one of them. But the intriguement and the motion and the courtesy and the professionalism, nobody talked about how tough they were. And they could hurt you. They were just nice guys. And I said, well, I'll stay a little longer. Well, a little longer became even a little longer, and we're still at it.
Nice.
And I think because of the courtesy, the professionalism, I've been to some schools as a guest, and I looked at how they treat their students, and they want to be known or something. And I always said, if you have a minute, I'll tell you, I did a study a few years ago because I'd been to, as you know, Europe and Asia and all over the U.S. And I did a thing about the United States. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but it may not be. This is about 20 years ago. If 100 people signed up as white belts, 94 would drop out before brown. 6 would go to brown. Of the 6 who go to brown, 3 would leave, and 3 would go to Shodan, first degree black. Of the 3 that got to first black, one would go beyond 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Wow.
So because life gets in the way, you relocate, things happen. But to a few of us, you, me, a few other guys, it's part of our life. I can't imagine life without it.
Yeah.
And when I was a boy, my dad said to me, Dad, what am I going to do after high school? And he said, find something you love to do. You will never work a day in your life. I never said to my wife, I'm going to work. So I'm going to the school. It was never work. It's part of my life,
Yeah.
So anyway, does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah. So what rank did you get to at that school before it closed down? And then did you ever get into competition while you were at that school?
Yeah, I fought my first fight in September 64.
Okay, wow.
And you needed full equipment, was a mouth guard and a groin protector, a cup. And I said, I don't need a cup because who's going to hit me? About 30 seconds into it, I thought I wish I had a cup on because I'm calling it mate, Japanese stop. I didn't compete a lot after that because my schedule was to the point where I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I loved it, but I would support everybody I could. And as time went on, I did a lot of refereeing and whatever. And as you know, you do it for the love of the art.
Yes.
You don't charge money for it or whatever you do to help promote the art. I can't say, well, I stayed with Goju-Shorei for a few years, and I will get around the story if I can because our guys broke into another school. One of our guys lost his life.
Dang.
He took a knife in the stomach. The other guy that he was fighting from the other school lost an eye.
Wow.
So the school was closed down. I won't give you names or anything else, but that is God's truth.
Yeah.
So one day I was driving home from the radio station, and I see this light in this building right near my house. And I look at it, and I didn't know what it was. The next day I stopped by there and introduced myself, and it was a young man. He just gotten his 2nd degree black belt, and his name was Joe Ganji, who today is like family to me. We are very special friends. And it was Ken Shua Do Gung Mao, Gong Fu, and Goju-Shorei was very linear, and this was more circular. Well, then Joe was offered a job training the military, which he joined the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Then he found out there was no military karate class. But now I'm a Ronin. You know, a Ronin is a samurai without a warlord.
Yeah.
I was out there looking at the schools I went to. They would touch you on the shoulder and you're a champion. I thought that's not what the art is about. So I see this ad, and it was John McSweeney.
Okay.
And I heard of Kenpo, Brian, but I didn't know what the heck it really was. So I called, could I have an appointment? He's come down now. So I went to see him because he was like 15 minutes from my house, and my wife was out with my daughter shopping, of course. So I went to school, and immediately I said, well, I don't know Kenpo. Could you show me something? And he moved. And it was a shuto, a hand blow to the side of my neck, and his fist stopped at my heart. I never saw him move, and he never touched me. And he said, that's my heart stop punch. I said, okay, I'll try him for a while. That was 1979.
Okay.
And I stayed with him throughout the years. And as the good Lord had it, Brian, I spoke to him about an hour before he passed away. He relocated to Florida, and I spoke with him. And I did a private class, came back and got a message from his wife that right after he spoke with me, he collapsed in her arms. So the good Lord at least let me speak with him.
Wow.
So, but he was rare. He came out of Ed Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And El Tracy and that whole crew, and they were real. They didn't talk about how good they were.
Yeah.
The proof is when you open the door, how many people are coming in. If you've got a lot of students, you're doing the job.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a lot of students because he had another life. You know, he was vice president of a company, but also they didn't like the fact we trained in shoes, in street clothes, no equipment. So you sparred. The other guy didn't say, "Ow," you didn't get the point. So it was old world. It was old world, but. Anyway, that's how I got into Kenpo. And then I started in 1964. I got my 8th dan 32 years later in 2002. And he passed away right after that. And then a group here in Chicago that I've known for years, there were Joe Ganji, Fred Degerberg, and a few of that level got together and awarded me my 10th dan. And right now I turned my school over. It's time to retire. I was 78 when I retired, but I'm still at it. But the guys that I turned my school over to, Jimmy Durkin is running it right now. And he's got Tony Shara helping the youth. And what Tony's job, will get under my tutelage at the time, train the youth to be teenagers, the teens to be adults. And then it's Jim's job. And they're doing a great job. The White Tiger at my school, Saviano's White Tiger Kenpo, is still going.
Nice.
That answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. So when you first met James and went and checked out his school, what you mentioned not even seeing him move, when you threw those strikes, but what are some of the big differences you noticed from your previous training, from karate, from kung fu?
Well, from John McSweeney?
Yeah.
It wasn't, you didn't chamber at the hip. You just shot it from where it was. And again, when I saw Ed Parker, when I met him and I saw him move, I'd never seen anybody move like that.
Yeah.
And it was let's say you threw a right punch, and elbow. Originally, it was punch, pull your arm back here with the elbow. And what I learned from John McSweeney was punch, bam, the arm collapsed, the elbow hit.
Yeah.
And they're both hitting it about a second time. And again, is there a best system? No, it's what fits you.
Yeah.
You wear a blue suit, I wear a brown suit. What's best? So I found that Kenpo really, truly, I was meant to study it.
Yeah. It was best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's when people tell me what's best, it's whatever fits you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Europe and Asia, different systems, and they're all effective. It doesn't work if you're sitting on a couch having a beer watching TV. What works is get your butt out there and go to work out. So the love that you, me, and a few other guys have, and I know that you interviewed Lee Wedlake a while ago,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Now, Lee is primo, one of the best.
Yeah.
Here's a guy came out of Ed Parker and ended up at the Alamo. I don't know if you know that. He was riding a horse security at the Alamo.
Wow.
And but guys like that, and if I may, I don't mean to drop names, but I want to prove a point if that's okay.
Yeah.
I was called, Chuck Norris called me about doing some seminars for Kick Drugs Out of America. But Chuck Norris, when I called him, Mr. Norris, he said, "No, call me Chuck." Can I call you Tom? I was tempted to say no, but I couldn't do it. He was Chuck Norris. I was invited. One of my students was from a different religion. They're a Muslim. He invited me to a dinner with Muhammad Ali. We're the only non-Muslim people there. Treated as though I was in your house. So polite, so nice. And I'm getting to a point. I worked with Jeff Speakman, who, as you know, made the movie The Perfect Weapon.
Yep.
And Jeff was just the nicest guy. He could back it up. He was really a true Kenpo black belt. The point I make is those are the real guys. They don't talk about how good they are, how tough they are. You know, you let your actions speak for you. Absolutely nice. Just super guys. Super guys, all of them.
Yeah, I got to interview Jeff. Jeff was a guest about 2 years ago. So super
Jeff
nice
Speakman?
guy. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in many years. I corresponded with him not too long ago, but an absolute gentleman.
Yes.
Absolute gentleman. And we did seminars together here in the Chicago area. And just he was Jeff. It was Jeff and Tom.
Yeah. I've been lucky. I've interviewed a handful of Kenpo guys, and they've all been super nice. Ed Parker Jr. was on the show. Larry Tatum was on the show. Jeff Speakman, Lee Wedlake.
That's big names.
Yeah.
Big names.
Jamie Seabrook, another good Michael Miller. And they're all just super nice.
Well, you name drop.
Rick Avery was one of my first guests. So yeah. Well,
you name dropper. You're naming some pretty powerful guys, and I like that, Brian.
I've been lucky. I mean, it's people keep saying yes. That's the fun part. They say yes.
No, let me explain something. The harder you work, the luckier you get. You're not lucky. You're busting your tail doing this, and it's paying off.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned obviously teaching. That's obviously became a very important part of that. What led to the love of teaching? What made you want to teach martial arts? And can you talk about the first time you taught? Like what school was it at? What belt you were? What age?
Well, first time I taught on my own, not under John McSweeney.
Even in a class, if you were like assisting in a class and the instructor's like, "Hey, I want you to lead the warm up." When was the first time?
And I was scared to death. I was nervous because I was a brown belt. John McSweeney would say to any of us, "Take over this for a moment." You get a phone call or whatever the case may be. You want to do things properly. And I do remember it had to be before I even got my black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down to a little 1,000 square foot basement.
Okay.
1,017 square feet, no windows, space heater. But we loved what we did and respected him for what he taught us. And when he asked me, "Tom, would you take over so-and-so for a moment?" And I, oh my God, he's asked me to teach. And it was just something basic,
mm-hmm.
maybe an elbow or something in the shield. But yeah, I do remember that very well. And how if you have a moment, I'll tell you how I got started teaching.
Definitely.
My son, Tom, came to me. I have two boys, Tom and Nick. And Tom said to me, he was 21 years old. His friends went, "Oh, I love this when people say, 'You know karate?'" I said, "I know a lot of Japanese words. You know karate?" I said, "No, I do, right? You get it too."
Oh, yeah.
So I said, "What can I do for you? Would you train us?" So I said, "Sure, fellas." So we're in my garage. I have a 2.5 car garage. We had an old carpet I put down, and I worked with 4 sets of brothers. I had 8 kids, and they were like 20, 21 years old. Well, winter was coming, and I said, "Fellas," I said, "Tell you what, if you want, I will sublet one night a week from John McSweeney, and you're going to pay me for it." Because I figured we'll find out if they're serious. So I charged them, I think, $25 a month or something, and we rented the school from John McSweeney for $100 a month. It was $25 for every Tuesday, I believe I had class. Well, they start telling our friends. Before you know it, I had 103 students.
Wow.
And I was, I swear to God.
Wow.
And I was regional manager for California Winery at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't do it because, Brian, I was working 85, 86 hours a week. I'm traveling, I'm teaching, I'm helping guys with tournaments. So I threw myself out of the wine business, totally into the martial arts. And that was back in 1990.
Okay.
And a couple of months later, we had to get a bigger school. And the one now, my school that I left now, is about 3,400 square feet. And everybody's been there. As they say, Jeff Speakman has been there and a couple of other guys too. So yeah, started out with, would you help this guy with an elbow?
Wow.
And now to be what it is.
So think back to that very first time through all these years. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over all those years?
I don't think a lot. I still believe in effectiveness. You could be out there and dance all day long. And we do a lot of law enforcement. I have, as everybody I'm sure does, but we've got local, county, state, and federal that we've taught. Mm-hmm. And when one of my guys told me, he works with the Department of the Navy, special agent. He has said that if you're wearing a vest and you do all your equipment and you get thrown to the ground, you got to know how to get up. And the other thing is you don't want to kick a guy in the head when you're wearing all that equipment and there's 2 or 3 guys. So you kind of make it more applicable to realistic. If you've got 2 or 3 guys and you're on your own, you want your feet planted and I don't think I've changed a lot.
Okay.
I've incorporated a little bit of the Goju-Shorei and a little bit of the Kang Shuan Dogu Mao into the system with the permission of my teacher.
Okay.
Because I'm old world, and same with you. You know how this is.
Yeah.
You don't just change things. You know what I mean? I would add something, subtract something. I would go to him out of respect for him, because none of us are good enough to do it on our own. You need your teacher's permission and authenticity.
Right.
So the system right now is obviously very effective because we're still getting a lot of law enforcement. As a matter of fact, somewhere I was thinking between now and Christmas, I wanted to do a seminar, 2-hour, just for current and former law enforcement.
Nice.
Get about 30 or 40 guys out there to have some fun. Because what you don't see, every system has something to offer. If you ever watch the UFC, UFC 3, one of my top fighters, Keith Hackney, fought. Keith, 5'10" and a half, 192 pounds, fought Emmanuel Yarborough, 6'6", 680-something pounds. I taught Keith a blow that night I never taught because I practiced it on cinder blocks. And I said, I can't just teach this strike. When I met Yarborough, who was a gentleman, by the way, I said to Keith, the only way to stop him is with this. You can kick him in the leg. His leg was big around as my body.
Jeez.
So there are, blows that you and I would consider death blows. You don't teach those to everybody. We do to make sure we're not a big breaking system, but prior to your black belt test with us, there's 3 to 4 hours on Monday, 3 to 4 hours on Tuesday. The final end of the test is the breaking portion. You have to punch through 3 1-inch boards, and you have to go through 2 ordinary bricks.
Okay.
With anything you want. You can do an elbow, a chop, a head, because if you hit and someone goes, is that all you got? You got a problem.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that you can defend yourself and those you love. And also part of our test, if you don't mind me telling you this, is I want you to fight exhausted. So what you do, let's say you're testing, Brian, are you ready? Yes, you're out there. You're sparring one guy. I throw another one that you didn't see coming, and you're sparring 2. When I think you're exhausted, I stop and I let you spar 2 more fresh guys. The reason for that is, let's say you're with somebody you love, your wife or whomever. You're at a grocery store and you're paying the bill, and she walks to the car and put the groceries in, and you hear her scream, help me. And you run over there and you're exhausted. 2 guys are trying to hurt her. Can you say, can I catch my breath? No, you have to fight exhausted. So I did all of these before I put it in the testing. And we've tested 74. We passed 73. The only one I couldn't test, believe it or not, had a black belt in another system.
Wow.
But I think he just kind of lost it. Nice guy. He never came back, by the way.
Oh, wow.
But he trained with me for about 4 years, too.
Okay.
So
that's kind of cool.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. It's funny. You remind me of another person I interviewed that ran an MMA school, and what they did when someone was getting ready, not for a test, but for an actual fight, I forget what they called it, but basically what they did was the guy who had the fight coming up went in the middle, and all the other students were in a circle around him. And he said an average of like anywhere from 15 to 20 guys. And basically he'd get a new opponent every 30 seconds and it would alternate between ground and stand up, and they'd go through the line twice. So he'd go through 40 different people nonstop, 30 seconds each.
You're going to love this, and I swear to God, I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
We do that.
Nice.
We have the circle,
and
what happens is, let's say there's 15 of you or 12 of you, whatever. I walk in the circle. You're not there now. You're testing. Your back is to us. And I touch each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I mix them up. You're in the middle. I call 3. You don't know where it's coming from. 6. You don't know where it's coming from. And then we do a double line. And there's, let's say, a dozen people. And your back is to me as I tap the ones that are going to attack. You don't want to hurt someone who's not attacking you, but you want to protect yourself in a situation where someone is.
Definitely.
And where I learned that many, 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 many years ago, I was in a pretty rough neighborhood, and I was walking into, I don't know what we call them, the Chicago projects.
Yep.
And I was walking into a building, and I had people on both sides of me, and I said, I'm going to get killed. They were absolute gentlemen. They didn't bother me. But had they, I wouldn't have been prepared for it. And that's when I added that to my system. Okay. Open your eyes, be aware. But the circle, we do it. You don't know where 1 is or 5 is or 8 is. They're coming from every angle. They're allowed to whack you on top of the head. You can't hit them.
Nice. I like that. That's awesome. So do you remember you talked about black belt test. Do you remember the first student you brought from white to black?
Yes, Anthony. He was one of the guys who came up in my garage.
Okay.
Of the 8, he was the first and only one to go to show. I'm sorry, there were 2 of them. He was the first one though. Anthony was, he started with me in 84. He got his black belt, I think, around 89 or so.
Okay.
About 5 years later, yeah.
Is he still training?
No, he's not. He
Okay.
was very heavy into electrical union. He's an electrician.
Okay.
Very work gets in the way, as we know. Life gets in the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I still have a lot of guys from the old days.
That's good. So where did the decision come from then to basically found your own system and found White Tiger Kenpo, and where did the name come from?
Okay, here we go. I wanted to see how good my guys were. I had a few students, maybe 15, 20 of them at the old school at the time. I said, you're doing pretty good against each other. How would you do in a tournament? And in those days, the tournament, a little light contact was allowed.
Mm-hmm.
There were no gloves. So I'm sorry, there were gloves, but you had light contact. So my son, Tom, was sparring, and this guy came across. He hit him right in the forehead with the palm heel. A back fist, and got the point for it. And that upset me. My son looked at me, and I nodded, which meant open it up. Well, he did a skip kick and sent this guy out of the ring and knocked over people who were in folding chairs. And John McSweeney was there, and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, God, Tom, what are you feeding these kids? I said, what Ed Parker fed you, raw meat and nail. So he says, they fight like tigers. Got it? So now I go home. Maybe we need a name. We didn't have a name. So I'm thinking, fight like tigers. So what's the unique black tiger, blue tiger, black and blue tiger? And I loved the white tiger because I had seen one at a zoo or somewhere, wherever I was impressed by it. And I thought about it, and White Tiger. And I told you about my Kung Fu instructor at the time, Joe Gaji. He said, put your name on it. Don't just put White Tiger because anybody can use it. It's generic. So it became Saviano's White Tiger Kenpo Karate, and still is.
Okay. Very cool. I like that. And I'm assuming that that's another one of those things you had that conversation with John, and he gave you your blessing and everything about that.
Oh, I wouldn't drink a glass of water without going here. He was just, he was out of respect. He was my teacher.
Yeah.
And when he was here and he retired, he lived in a southwest suburb, close suburb of Chicago. I lived due west. I'd pick him up maybe once a week. We'd go have coffee or he didn't drink coffee. We'd have lunch, and I would call him a couple of times a week. And then we relocated to Florida. I made sure I called him at least once a week, 4 to 5 times a month, and just stay in touch with him. But I didn't do a darn thing without courtesy, without going to him. That's professional.
Yeah.
You know, if I tell people, you think you're so hot, you're so good, you can do it on your own, go ahead. That's disrespectful.
Yeah.
You do everything through your teacher. And again, if you're really good, your students are telling their friends. And with John McSweeney, oh my God! I mean, I think I went to Ireland with El Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
He invited me.
Yep, I remember
we
reading
talked about John McSweeney all the way there.
Wow.
And I've been to 3 countries in Europe, 3 in Asia, and all over the U.S. And his name, people never met him, knew his name, just like Ed Parker. Everybody knew his name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So speaking of Ed Parker, now, did you ever fight at the internationals in Long Beach?
No, never.
Never.
I was working here with the wine company, with winery, as I said, and I had my own school. And I had a lot of other things going, so I just didn't get into a lot of the tournaments. Not that I didn't like them or respect them. There were times, sometimes I would run and just referee for them and do what I had to do. And I did a lot of refereeing internationally also. Okay. But I didn't do a lot of tournament here, no.
Okay. And you mentioned, meeting Ed Parker. So how did that first meeting come about?
Well, it was at Leawood Lake School,
okay.
And it had to be 1984, I guess. And Mr. Parker was brought in by Mr. Woodlake, and he trained Lee and he trained John McSweeney. So I went there, and I told you, when I went up to him, I was amazed. I said, my God, Ed Parker. So I salutation. I said, Master Parker. And I tell you what he said. Tom is a master in heaven. I'm not him. I said, is Mr. Parker acceptable? Yes, it is, Tom. John told me all about you. And I don't know what he said, but it was nice. And Ed Parker was the nicest man, a gentleman. Never talked about he could kill you. He was just nice. Yeah, truly a great guy.
That is cool. And I've heard that. Everyone I've interviewed who trained with him, who met him, none of them have a bad thing to say about him. So,
well, John McSweeney, if you have a minute, I'll tell you about his background.
Yeah.
He lied about his age in World War II. He was a machine gunner for the Navy on the amphibious, and he left there. And during the Korean conflict, he was a captain in the Army. He saw action in Korea. From there, he went to the Air Force. He was an advisor in Vietnam before we even heard of Vietnam. And from there, he was a border guard. Now, how do you not train with a man like that?
Yeah.
And then he was training, got a brown belt at the Kodokan in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And then he was reassigned to the United States, and he didn't know who Ed Parker was, but he got into that system. Ended up, I believe Al Tracy got his black belt just before John McSweeney did in 1962. And it was meant for it. He was just meant for Kenpo. It fit him perfectly because he was, one of his things, he signed his books to me. I see, first a warrior or all else is folly.
Nice.
So be a man. You don't talk. Again, those that talk about how good they are full of baloney. They have no respect. They don't know anybody. I tell these guys, they drop names. Okay, you drop a name. Can you name his system, the location of his school, how long he's been training? You know anything about where he lives? No, you know his name. So someone like Ed Parker, he knew everybody. He knew everything about everybody. And we're with a bunch of guys at my school not long ago. We promoted some guys to 7th, 8th, and a degree black belt. I had 5 10th Dans with me. And they were just cream of the crop. We've known each other for 50 years.
Wow.
And you look back and you think, wow, none of them talked about how good they are. So remember what I said.
Yeah.
Them that talk don't know, and that know don't talk.
That's right.
My father was an engineer. And in the old neighborhood, I mean, if you graduated high school, it was a big deal those days because they had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad taught me a lot. He and I were walking one day past about a 4-foot high cyclone fence. And one dog was barking and everything and barking at us. The other dog was just laying there looking at us. So my dad said, don't worry about the barking dog. You see that quiet one? I said, yeah. My dad leaned on the fence. The dog got up. He said, don't worry about the barking dog. Watch out for the quiet one. So I tell my students that, my black belt students, shut your mouth. And if it happens, let it happen. But don't talk about it. Don't tell people anything about it. That's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
Oh, look at me. Nobody wants to.
I like it. That's good. So you talked about, John McSweeney's books and stuff. I was looking and I couldn't find it. Have you written a book yet?
What book?
Oh, then when are you going to?
No, I'm in John McSweeney's books. Yeah.
Well, I know, but I'm asking about you. Has anyone ever written one about you, or have you ever written one?
Oddly enough, I've had 7 or 8 people. One was a writer. Mm-hmm. One was a publisher. I just never did it. And I've been asked to. I just never got around to it. It maybe be interesting. I don't know if anybody be interested, but maybe be interesting. I don't know.
Plenty of people will be interested, I think.
Would you buy one?
Definitely, yeah.
I put you on the spot, didn't I?
I definitely buy. I mean, I probably wouldn't have time to read it till I decide to end my podcast, but I would definitely add it to my stack. I tell a lot of my guests I used to read a book a week until I started my podcast, and now I've maybe read two in the last 5 years.
I have a library full of books, and I'm a big Sinatra-aholic.
Nice.
And one of my favorite books is reading about him and his history and his life. And they say readers are leaders. Again, That was my dad. You can do so much TV. I don't smoke. I'm not a big drinker. I think whatever success I had in the liquor and wine industry is because I'm not a big drinker. I'll tell you a cute story.
Yeah. One
day, 2 of my competitors from other wineries were there. And where are you going to be Tuesday? And I'm going to be here. So we arranged ourselves to be together in Detroit, I think. And we're competitors, not enemies. We're having dinner, and there's a bunch of young guys acting like fools and making a lot of noise. And one of the guys said something I'll never forget. He said, you know what, Tom, must be amateur night. I said, you're right. Those that know, shut their mouths. These guys, they're loud, they're boisterous, and look at me. It's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
Not what it's all about,
I like it. So over your years in martial arts, do you have a favorite weapon that you've learned and that you like to train with?
Well, with John McSweeney, believe it or not, for our first degree black belt, we had to qualify with a pocket knife.
Really?
An actual pocket knife. Yeah, part of it.
Okay.
And for my 4th black, it was a weapon of choice. So I chose the sai. You familiar with the sai?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Only because I never did it. But my favorite thing is, and I brought it over the country with me, is edge weapons.
Okay.
So I do a lot of handgun shooting because, again, I've dealt with so much law enforcement.
Yeah.
And I go maybe every 2 weeks, I go 150, 200 rounds just for the fun of it. It's expensive, though.
Yeah.
But to carry a pocket knife costs nothing. And like I tell people, because there's guys, I can still do this, still do that. No, you can't. You have to train. Mm-hmm. And I've said to people, it kind of like tapping myself on the back as a joke. I said, if you used to be into martial arts and you haven't trained in 5, 10, 20 years, you better be careful. You'll ever run into me. You carry a knife and you haven't practiced with it. Put it away. Leave it home. You might run into me. You carry a gun, but you don't go to the range and try it. Leave it home. You're going to run into me. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
Definitely.
So what it amounts to is not me, but there's guys out there who know what they're doing with these weapons.
Yeah.
I read the paper, and I talk to a lot of law enforcement, Brian, and I look at what's happening all over the country with these young kids hijacking cars and shooting people, driving by. We had a situation here, the Chicago area this summer. There was a birthday party. They drove by, and they started shooting in the yard. They killed a boy.
Wow.
Why? What, you coward. How could you? Why?
Yeah.
Why? So I don't know. But my favorite weapon, edge weapons.
Okay. Very cool. So you mentioned Keith Hackney earlier. I'm curious, do you kind of remember like when he first came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this UFC thing," kind of what were your thoughts on that initially?
You're going to love this because Anthony, my first black belt I told you about, met him at the gym. They're both in great shape. They're both, horses. And he brought him to me, and Keith had a black belt in another system, and asked if he could maybe try it out. I never charged him. And today we are still very good friends. I promise you, I'll talk to him sometime today too. We still go to lunch. We still get along. I brought him with me to Europe, and I brought him with me to China.
Nice.
But anyway, Keith came up to me. He'd been with me for a little while. He said, "Mr. Saab, because I talked to you." I said, "Well, sure, Hack. What's up?" He said, "I'd like you to train me for something." I said, "What?" Because I'm thinking another tournament where you touch a guy on the shoulder and you get a trophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get participation trophies. That really drives me nuts. So I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I touch you on the shoulder and I win." "No, for the UFC." Brian, I had never heard of UFC. So I said, "Ufk, what the hell is ufk?" He said, "UFC." I said, "I'm right in here. Ufk. What the heck is ufk?" He said, "Ultimate Fight Championships." I said, "What is it about?" So he described it to me. I said, "Now you have my attention. It's about real talent, real skill, real fighting." And I said, "What are the rules?" And he wasn't sure at the time. We did find out: no eyes, no throat, and no fish hooks. Just about everything else would go. So that's how we got into the UFC. And his first fight was with Yarborough, as you know.
Yep.
And he did quite well. We met some great people, Kenny Shamrock, and just nice, real people. But I tell these guys that I won a trophy in sport karate. Get in the UFC. Go fight these guys, or come down here. I had a father one day, if I may tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
The guy came to me probably, 15, 20 years ago. Nice looking young fella, maybe 40-ish. I heard about, he saw me doing things with Chuck Norris. So he said, I'd like to train my son. I said, okay. So we're talking, and I said, well, what about you? And he laughed. He said, I'm going to clean it up. He said, I don't need this BS. I said, excuse me? Now, you're where you are, you're sitting in a chair in the headquarters of the American Kenpo Karate Association and use that word. I said, what does you need? Well, I can fight. I figured I'll fix them. I said, good. I got a bunch of guys in the back sparring now, which I didn't. There was nobody back there. I said, I need someone like you to get out there. I said, and I'll get you in the UFC and this and that. And he stopped. Well, no, I can't fight like that. I said, then shut up. Take your son, get out of school.
Wow.
So, don't talk about it. The real guys don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
I said, talkers, not doers.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So over your 6 decades in the martial arts, is there one philosophy that's at the top of your list that's super important to you?
If I tell you this, I will swear to God on the soul of my mother and father or God that this is true.
Okay.
And I hope you believe me because it is true. I just turned 85 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I have never in my lifetime had an argument, and I'll tell you why. I learned a long time ago, words are like bullets. Once I throw them at you and they hurt you, I can say, I'm sorry. I can't take the hurt back.
Right.
They've damaged you. So I will walk away from an argument in a minute. You want to call me names? We'll talk about that too. But it doesn't mean I walk away if you put your hands on me or mine. But I tell the guys, and people talk about others behind their back, Brian, I don't understand it. Because cowards do that. You can talk to them on the phone, through a text or an email, call them names or whatever, talk when they're not there. My philosophy is, you want to say something bad about me or someone else, let's go to school, lock the door, get in the middle of the floor, 3 feet apart, now say it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So what I've learned is that cowards talk. And it's, again, that quiet dog that's watching you, that's what you have to be careful of. So my philosophy is, if you got something to say bad about somebody, shut up. If you want to say it privately to them, that's up to you. But other than that, walk away from it, man. Walk away from it.
Nice.
That's all.
I like it.
It's true.
No, I completely. Yeah. All right. How about a worst martial arts related injury?
To me?
Yeah.
How much time do you have? Remember, we didn't have equipment. We had a mouth guard. The worst, wow, I can think of a few of them.
Okay.
The one I remember, I think the most was the first one when I told you I got in a tournament, took a McGarry, a front snap kick, smashing a groin. an instep. That was probably the worst because my voice went up about 3 octaves and I was down on one knee and I was done. That's probably the worst blow I've had.
Okay.
I've been hit. My dear friend, Joe Ganji, who I told you was my Kung Fu trainer, he and I were sparring one day without gloves, 20 years ago. And I went up in the air and I was coming down. I love him like a brother, so I was going to punch him in the head. He shot a kick straight up and hit me in the xiphoid.
Oh, dang.
And I stood there, looked at him, and I said, lunch is on me. He said, oh, yeah, lunch is definitely on you. I still had the lump.
Wow.
But no, you try to avoid conflict if you can. Walk away. There's a saying, I believe it was Ed Parker said it. If you can walk away, you can talk your way out of it, do it. If you can walk away, do it. Don't run away. Don't crawl away.
Nice.
You can run away. Don't crawl away. I think what he means, don't crawl away, either wounded or as a coward.
Mm-hmm.
And again, those that talk about you, they're cowards.
Yeah.
And there's really no room. So next.
Okay. So you talked about, your son, Tom, was one of the, first ones started training in your garage and stuff. Now, did your other son, Nick, did he get involved in martial arts? And has your wife ever gotten involved?
Tom was, he started working nights in a printing company. And I was traveling with the wine company. So Tom had to stop at brown belt. Nick was in school. He had a lot of other commitments. He trained a little bit and not a lot. I tell my wife, what have you got to protect yourself? She said, you. Well, okay. Because I want to get her a pepper spray or something, right?
There you go.
What are you going to do to protect yourself? You. Oh, yeah, okay. So I tell everybody, I have one fight left. If the devil comes, tell him not to come alone. It's going to be my best one.
Nice. All right, I got some fun questions we use to kind of wrap up the interview. But so we're talking about like the UFC, talking about Keith and everything. So let's say at some point you decided you were going to step into that octagon. What's your walk-up song going to be? What music's playing as you're taking that walk into the cage? You're an old radio guy. See, I know you like music.
I would just say, I won't sing it, but the devil just opened the gates of hell. Get the hell out of the way.
Nice.
But I will tell you this. One of my black belts said, I said it to him once, and I don't remember it. He said, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. You could lead, you could follow, or just get the hell out of my way. I said that? He said, yes, sir, you did.
Nice.
You could lead me, you could follow me, or just get out of the way.
Like it. I thought maybe you were going to say Sinatra or something. You said you're a big Sinatra fan.
There was only, God made one of those. Only one of those, yeah. No, really, the truth is that I never thought of getting into the UFC or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, breaking a guy's nose for money. It just didn't make sense to me. I'm not opposed to it. I'll train anybody for it.
Yeah.
It's a different era. That's all.
Yeah.
But I have nothing but respect for those guys, so I got to give you that.
And back then, it wasn't much money either.
Well, they had $5,000 for the winner.
Wow!
And I'll tell you something that'll knock you out. Keith dropped Yarborough. I don't know if you saw the fight.
Oh yeah, I watched it live when it happened. Yep.
All right. I told Keith in the locker room, we had like ping pong tables and sheets to divide us.
Wow.
And yeah, I told Keith I want him down in 15 seconds or less because there's an element of surprise. And I want you out of that ring under 2 minutes, a winner. Well, the blow I taught him, which is really a crane strike. I call it step through tiger. He hit it with that blow in 13 seconds. And then they stopped stopped the fight at 1:59. He hit him 42 times. So he did what he was taught, what he was trained to do.
That's awesome.
My theory has always been, if you're not going to listen to your teacher or your trainer, go on your own.
Yeah.
Keith was incredible. He did exactly what he was told to do. And later on, when I met Yarborough, he was a gentleman. Mm-hmm. He shook my hand. His hand went halfway up my arm. Huge guy. But I look back at those days. They were great days. They brought a lot of attention to our school,
mm-hmm.
to the system, and to, I think, the martial arts in general.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, with the exposure he had, did anyone else approach you to train them for the UFC after that?
Not really, but I was going to tell you something, and
mm-hmm.
it slipped my mind. If you can, I'll renew it.
Definitely.
When he fought Yarborough, I don't know if you saw Yarborough threw him to a locked gate. I told Keith, you got to fight Kenny Shamrock next, and Kenny's again a great fighter. I said, Keith, he broke some metacarpal bones,
yep,
and he damaged his wrist. I said, you're going to have one hand. You don't want to fight this guy with one hand. So I said, we're not going to fight. Keith, let it go. So we did let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody knew it but Keith. It went across the air. Everyone in the stadium knew it. So now we're going to get paid. He's supposed to get $5,000. They're not giving it to him. They're giving him a partial. So what are you talking about? They said, well, you didn't drop the towel. I said, what are you talking about? They said, if you drop the towel, then he would have gotten the fight. I said, well, you didn't tell me that. I said, my fighter deserves that money. We went on. And to be honest with you, and it's not for public, but I did say some bad things to these guys.
Yeah.
And I won't go into that. But they said if he fights in December, this was September the 3rd, 1994.
Yep.
Yeah, they said if he fights the ultimate in December, we'll give him the remaining of the $5,000 plus whatever is at the time. That's what we did, and that's how he got paid. Okay. And he deserved it.
Yeah,
he
definitely.
Showed courage and showed everything. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Ed Parker.
Cool.
John McSweeney.
Nice.
L. Tracy.
Nice.
I was going to say Brian Duche, but I don't want you to get mad at me. I think if you go back in time, William Khoisan Chow taught
Ed Parker. Yeah.
Ed Parker. I think I'd put him up there too.
Nice.
Because if you look at our history, I'm not saying others haven't done this. I'm just telling you what I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Originally, if I have this right, Kenpo is Japanese for law of the fist or hand art. It was called Shuanfa from southern China. And they had rice paddies. So your stances were tight. You didn't do a lot of kicks because you're in mud. Mm-hmm. So it was hand art. And from there, went to Okinawa, to Japan, where they changed the name to Kenpo, law of the fist. And it was brought to Japan, brought it to Hawaii. Ed Parker learned his system from... I just said his name.
Mr. Chow, yeah, William K.S.
Thank
Chow.
you, Professor Chow. Ed Parker brought it from Hawaii to the United States. John McSweeney brought it to Europe, the first karate school of any kind in Ireland, the first Kenpo school in all of Europe. I brought it back to China. So in under 100 years, it made full swing.
Nice.
So, but those guys, because they're the reason we're here.
Yeah.
So
very surprised in 250 episodes. I think you're the first one that actually mentioned William Chow to be on the Mount Rushmore. So I'm actually shocked no one else has mentioned him.
Well, William Khoisan Chow taught Ed Parker.
Yeah.
I have one picture in my dining room. I have a good sized home here. Mm-hmm. It's my grandfather, Tom Saviano, came here in 1907. Without those people, there is no us.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you can go back to your teacher, maybe his teacher. How about going back a little bit further?
Yeah.
So, Professor Chow, he was something else. He was something else. Yep. And before him, there was James Matosi.
Yeah.
James Matosi took it from Japan to Hawaii and taught Chow, who taught Parker, taught McSweeney, taught me, and so on and so forth.
Nice.
So we continue it.
Definitely. All right. I know you mentioned you have a big library. So what is a favorite martial arts book?
Anything by John McSweeney.
Okay.
Honest to God. I have every book he has, he signed to me personally. I have some from the Japanese systems. I have some Kung Fu systems. And I enjoy them all because you can learn something from everybody.
Yeah. How many did John write?
Probably 5 or 6 that made it.
I don't think I actually have any of his. I need to add some of his to my library, I think.
Well, I believe I sent you that thing about the continuing the legacy of John McSweeney, the 2-day seminar.
Yeah.
And his name over there, oh my God, it's like God. It's John McSweeney. He is the father of Irish karate. And his guys he met there, Tommy Jordan, trained with him as a teenager. And when John McSweeney was posthumously acknowledged into the Illinois State Martial Arts Hall of Fame, 3 of the Irishmen came here.
Oh, wow.
They had dinner. My wife made dinner. We had dinner in my home. We went out together. We talked. Just could not be any nicer than they are. Cool. But it all came out of John McSweeney.
Nice. Yeah, and I've heard his name's been mentioned by many of my guests before. So.
Oh yeah. You know what? I always said about the guys who blow their own horns. Mm-hmm. He who lives alone dies alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give credit where it's due. It's not you. I didn't invent everything.
Right.
Who invented the punch? It wasn't me. Some caveman or something.
Yeah.
So I look at these guys and they praise themselves. Well, look at me, look at me, look at me. And like with the Illinois State Martial Arts Hall of Fame, you don't recommend someone. They'll come to you.
Yeah.
And Mike McNamara, who's president, he came to me, asked me would I recommend Keith. I didn't recommend anybody. You can't say, look at me.
Yeah.
That's not what we're all about. Those guys who, again, another savage, those that think they come in, that they put themselves first, usually come in last.
Agreed. Oh, I like it. All right, this one you may not have an answer for. It's about 50-50 with my guess, but do you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into gaming at all?
No.
Okay.
No, not really.
No problem.
Really. My favorite martial arts video game is Sparring Without Gloves.
I like it. Okay. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
What was the old Kung Fu show? I can't think of his name.
David Carradine.
David Carradine.
Yep.
Because it brought attention to us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he wasn't. Maybe he was slightly trained. I don't know.
Before that, little to no training. He did get into Tai Chi while he was in the show and stuck with that. But yeah.
But he still brought attention to the martial arts.
Yeah.
To Kung Fu. And we've lost so many nice people, Brian. And one of them, fellow here, was called, his name was Johnny Tai, Tsai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He's
I know
gone, and his top student, one of his top students, was Steve Abate. I was keynote speaker at the Hall of Fame a few years ago,
mm-hmm.
and I said, the only success I may have had, I never had to fight Johnny Tai or Steve Abate. And it's true, because they'd rather die than lose. And when you look at that first Kung Fu series on TV, it showed that.
Yeah.
You fight, it's not a point. Don't look at me. It's not a point game. And again, these guys who want a pat on the back, what did you do to earn it? And I wanted to tell somebody once, he was on another system, which didn't matter, but he was talking about himself and this and that. And I wanted to say, look, get a pad of paper and a pen. I tell anybody who thinks that they're a god, do this. Write down all of your accomplishments, every one. And at the end, look at that blank paper and say, maybe I'm not who I thought I was.
Nice.
Where have you been? Where have you gone? Who has acknowledged you? Are you in a Hall of Fame, a real Hall of Fame? Some of these guys you can buy your way in, I understand.
True.
Oh.
So I ask all my guests this when we talk about martial arts TV shows. Have you watched the newer series Warrior?
No, I've heard about it though.
Okay.
I have heard about it. Yeah. What do you think about it?
Highly recommended. Shannon Lee was the producer. It's so good.
Well, under your recommendation, I promise you. Wait a minute. What's it called? The Warrior?
Warrior. Yeah, it's on Netflix right now, I believe. Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think. Really, really curious. So the story I heard was that Shannon Lee found her father's original notes from the early 70s on this series that he pitched to the network called Warrior that they shot down. And she basically took his original notes and created it and brought it out. They had 3 seasons and it was phenomenal.
Wow.
So yeah, it's worth a watch. Some great martial arts in there, great storylines, great acting. It's a really underrated show, I think.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. I don't like people to drop names, but you'll appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple here, Ron Balicki and Diana Lee in Osanto.
Yep.
You know who they are?
Yep.
Okay.
They both been on my show.
They are beyond nice.
Yes. Super.
When she walked into my school, in front of a mutual friend, Ed Degerberg, told her, but Fred, I don't know if you know, he has 1,300 students.
Yeah.
And
many of my guests have also mentioned Fred. So, yep.
Yeah, he's a gentleman. He's a professional. But anyway, she came back with Ron Balicki, and their pictures are still up in the school.
Nice.
And I saw them last year at the Hall of Fame banquet, and we took pictures together. I've changed. They haven't. Mm-hmm. He's still in great shape. She's still a lovely girl.
Yes.
And also I don't know if you ever heard the name Arlene Lemus.
Oh, yeah. Supposed to be interviewing her. We've been kind of going back and forth for like 2 years.
Do me a favor, write my name down and say hi for me. Because when she was a young lady, I would referee her.
Oh, nice.
Or judge her. And she was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And I'm going back maybe late 80s,
yep.
Maybe 1990, where today she's still around. I saw her at the Hall of Fame, introduced me to her mother.
Nice.
Just an absolute professional and a sweetheart. A very, very nice lady.
That's cool.
So, yeah, what else we got?
Favorite martial arts movie?
I got to go with The Perfect Weapon because I have prejudice.
Yeah.
Because I think he demonstrated what could really happen.
Yeah.
You didn't see him jumping up in the air, spinning, hooking, kicking, keeping in the head, and landing on his feet, taking out 6 guys. Jeff is real.
Yeah.
Jeff is legitimate, and what he teaches, what he does is legitimate. He and I did a seminar here in the Chicago area in, I believe it was in the month of January, many years ago, in the auditorium of the college or high school here. Everybody was impressed with him.
Yeah.
And as was I. I would say, yeah, Perfect Weapon. I tell everyone, look at it. Maybe I'm prejudiced about our system, but watching him, he shows what it can be done.
Yeah. Realistically. That movie is the reason I moved to California in 1996 to train in American Kenpo because of that movie. So.
Well, after Mr. Parker died, I think he's got Kenpo 5 or something.
Yeah, Kenpo, American Kenpo 5.0 is.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Incorporated grappling with it.
So did we. One of my black belts. Hold on.
Nice.
Mike Nevins. He's just got his 8th degree with me, which we don't hand out easily.
Yeah.
But also, he flies back and forth to Tokyo. He's a 3rd dan in judo.
Very cool. Okay.
Because I was talking to one of the policemen, and what if you get knocked on the ground with all that equipment?
Mm-hmm.
You got 35 pounds with a vest and a sidearm. How you going to get up? You'd better know what the hell you're doing down there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've incorporated. I told you, Jim has taken over my school, and he asked me about it. I said, put it in. It makes all the sense in the world.
That's cool.
John McSweeney had a brown belt in judo. But
Okay.
that doesn't make you a teacher.
Right.
Mike is teaching well. So what do you got next?
Final question. Now, this one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, favorite movie fight scene?
Wow. I'm drawing a blank because there's a million of them.
Yeah, we've had people pick, Rocky, Star Wars, comic book movies,
You just
Bruce
hit it.
Lee,
Rocky.
Chuck Norris.
You
Rocky?
just hit Rocky. Yes.
Okay, nice.
Because he showed what a true warrior, man or woman, would show. You kicked my butt. I'm not through. I've got one punch left, one fight left. A good example of that, if you have a moment.
Mm-hmm,
I
definitely.
received a heck of an education, and I don't mean college. You're going to love this. My mother and father taught me what my wife and I taught our kids. Open a door for a lady. Hold a door for someone. Someone's carrying a heavy package. Help them.
Yep.
Someone's in a wheelchair. Help them get across the street. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So I told you, I was raised to treat women with respect, treat everyone with respect, but help a lady, whatever, in and out. So girls were always girls. One day, when I was in Goju-Shorei, we're sparring, and I sparred. This is a true story. I promise you, it's a heck of an education.
Yep.
I sparred Big John. Everything was 1 point in those days.
Yeah.
And John was the biggest guy in our school. I beat him 7-1. Now, I think I'm better than Bruce Lee and everybody else, see, because I beat Big John.
Of course.
Sensei Dwyer, my teacher, a while later, puts me in against Wanda. Wanda was from Hawaii. I forget her last name. He said, Hajime, I thought I was surrounded. She beat the heck out of me. Beat me to no end.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, she was just that good because I was so cocky and arrogant, of course, because ladies were ladies, right? They didn't fight.
Yep.
So it was all over. And I called Monte, stop. Afterwards, I'm sitting there just depressed. Sensei just came up to me and said, what happened? Why didn't you fight her like you fought him? I said, well, she's only a girl. She's only a girl. I've got 8 or 10 women that black belts under me. Go tell them that.
Yeah.
Only a girl. Beat the heck out of me, this girl. So I learned something. So treat everybody with respect, but I'll never forget she's only a girl. And see, John McSweeney, he only wanted to teach young guys that could get beat up.
Yep.
We had a couple of women in there to beat the guys up. So you
That's
can't.
awesome.
If you're not you, but people are prejudiced about race, religion, color of my skin, the color of my car, who I vote for. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And learning what I learned from Wanda, if I could find her today, I'd take her out to dinner.
Nice.
Because I'd have her here for dinner. She was that good. And I was that bad.
So you'll appreciate this story then. When I was in California, when I first got out there, me and my friend went and we just visited a bunch of martial arts schools, also. And we stopped into a Hapkido school. I wish I could remember the head instructor's name. The head instructor was like a 7th or 8th degree black belt. He was one of the ones who taught class by not doing. He basically told people what to do and he just walked around pointing stuff. But the worst part was they were going through exercises. And I remember it was something like, it's like, all right, class, sit down, everyone down and 50 sit-ups. And he paused and he goes, and girls do 25. And every exercise he gave, it was half the amount for the women. Me and my friend are looking like, what? Because we're thinking back like, all right, the female black belts back home in our school in Fargo would do twice as many as the guys just to prove it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, see, it came out of that same era that I did.
I guess so. Yeah.
If a neighbor lady's coming out of a store carrying groceries, you take the groceries, you walk her home, you go upstairs, put them on the table.
Yep.
You open the door for her. I jokingly tell my wife and my kids that if the house burns, you're going to cook because you don't know how to open the door. I open it. I'm always the first one there to open the door. And that's just respect and care.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's funny. So before I let you go, is there anything we forgot to mention or just last minute parting words you want to get out there quick before we wrap this up?
You know what, Brian, looking at what you and I love, the martial arts, if someone truly loves it, they will attain goals. They will pursue it. They will help to motivate people. I look at what you're doing with your podcast. You're expanding. You're bringing it all over the country. I've, again, gone to, and I'm not patting me on the back. I don't like people to do that. But 16-hour flight to Hong Kong, mainland China, Macau, Italy, Greece, Ireland, all over the U.S. Spread it. Teach people. Show people. Because when we're gone, it will continue. Ed Parker's no longer here. John McSweeney's no longer here. Earl Tracy's gone. Kenpo is surviving.
Yeah.
And when I'm gone, I told my guys, you're going to love this. You will continue or I will come back.
I like it.
I'm watching you.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, sir, this has been so much fun.
My name's not Sir. No. But you don't spell Sir Tom.
It's a habit. It's martial arts habit. You know. But seriously, Tom, this has been so much fun. Such an honor. Such a pleasure. I love doing this. I'm glad we were finally able to sit down and record this. And I think my listeners are really going to love this one.
Well, give me a clue and information and send me an email. Love to talk with you. And I made you a promise. You get yourself to Chicago. You either have dinner at my house or I'm going to take you out. So,
definitely.
I'll bring you to the school too, show you around. There's pictures in the school of people from all over the universe, all over the world.
That's
from
awesome.
Ireland, from Italy, from Europe, and from Asia, and from the U.S. And yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it. Look forward to seeing you, my friend.
Definitely. I seriously, man, it's been a blast, and I truly enjoyed it.
So did I. You know what? It was fun doing. My phone is plugged in, so it didn't go out because I'm so high-tech. So I will look forward to hearing from you again, and let me know.
Wrap up today's episode by taking your own training to the next level with Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, the book that's redefining martial arts thinking. Find Martial Theory on Amazon today. Join the worldwide movement at martialtheoryu.com, where you'll find Q&A sessions, live events, and direct guidance from Steve himself. Use code EverydayMA for 20% off for life. That's martialtheoryu.com, code EverydayMA. Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.